Hello and welcome, one and all, to another episode of the A2theK Wrestling Show. I'm Carl, joining me as always, the man who puts the fucking A in A2theK. It's this guy right here, it's Anthony.
Nice. Thank you for that lovely introduction there, Carl. So it's a hell of a week we've got in store for everyone, as always. Coming up this week, we've got the Ringside Report, in which we're going to cover all the latest news and rumours from the world of wrestling this week. Then we're going to talk about the four big shows being Raw, NXT, Dynamite and SmackDown in This Week in Wrestling. And I'll mention a little extra NXT, what did they call it? Vengeance
So
Day.
innovative.
We're going to cover that as well. All in This Week in Wrestling. So a nice jam-packed This Week in Wrestling for you this week. And then obviously, every week we have a nice, unique segment. And Carl, do you want to tell the people what we've got for our unique segment this week?
Love is in the air. Valentine's Day has just been and gone, so we only felt it was fitting, to declare our love this week for your Olympic hero and mine, the one and only Kurt Angle. So we're going to have a little segment on that, on why we love Kurt Angle. Just so many reasons. So we'll be talking through that.
Yeah. It needs addressing. It does need addressing. That's fair. Right, so, given that the Ringside Report is our first one, Carl, shall I do a run-through of the headlines on what we've got coming up this week? So, this week, Carl, on the Ringside Report, we've got WWE superstars and crew members reportedly furious backstage at SmackDown. We have Davey Boy Smith Jr. hinting at joining WWE. We have Braun Strowman suffering an infection in his bloodstream. We have WWE making multiple signings, notably Taya Valkyrie and Harlem Bravado. We have a Sammy Guevara in the Bad Books potentially with Tony Khan over an Impact appearance. We have Casey Catanzaro receiving criticism over COVID-19. We have the rapper Bow Wow. Is he just Bow Wow now? Lil Bow Wow. Training with WWE Hall of Famer ahead of signing with WWE. We have Eli Drake signing with WWE. Signings everywhere. We have Goldberg agreeing with Taker's opinion on wrestling today being soft. And funnily enough, we have Cena disagreeing with Taker's opinion that wrestling today is soft. And lastly, we have Cody Rhodes being potentially injured. All that coming up right now.
And I believe the first one is me to kick it off this week. And a bit of an interesting one. So news broke that during SmackDown this week, apparently the majority of the crew members and the superstars were pretty pissed off, if you will. I believe a tweet came out from WrestleVotes, who's been quite accurate on predicting some of these things, has come out to say that the level of unhappiness and straight up anger was at an all-time high backstage. Everybody from the WWE superstars all the way through to the crew were upset. So no one really knows the official reason behind this, but a lot of people are alluding to a meeting that took place earlier in the week with WWE officials around they're going to be putting a freeze on people getting promotions and pay rises for all employees. So it wasn't made clear at the time whether that was going to be for the superstars as well. But if everybody's pretty pissed off, potentially there could be something around that as well. But yeah, interesting one. We've heard a lot of stuff from Raw, from SmackDown, behind the scenes of people kind of being unhappy or a bit of unrest. But to hear that the anger levels were at an all-time high makes you think some shit's going down. So what do you think? What do you think of this?
Yeah. I mean, it's all speculative, but, when you can see the surprising number of signings that we've had over the last few days with WWE, and this is not too long after a number of releases as well. It seems they're kind of erratic over what they can spend money on and what they can't. Because I believe, they're looking at the Performance Center roster, this is one of the biggest they've had in a long time in terms of people they've signed, and that costs money. So when you're then telling existing, and I'll say talent and crew so far, like you say, there's no official stance on the superstars themselves, but when you're telling talent and crew that, you're putting a freeze on certain element like bonuses and promotions and stuff, I can see that being massively irksome, especially the way they've been the last, like, you understand, like, belt tightening, don't you, when we're going through the pandemic and things have to change, and I think a lot of people are, like, they'd wear that as unhappy as they would be about it, but when you can see them spending a ton of money elsewhere as well, and also obviously moving the streaming platform over to Peacock, which is beneficial to them financially, I would imagine, as well, because obviously there's a cost of running the WWE network will suddenly be gone as well. So you think, well, you've allegedly made record profits, you have released a ton of people, and you clearly have the money to spend on new people. So yeah, it feels like a bit of a kick in the teeth for them, really. So I get why they
it's
would be
interesting
quite
because
annoyed.
obviously I don't think they do promotions and stuff, especially for the superstars. I need to, like, that's WWE talking at the superstars for the wrestlers. Damn it, they don't really do that ever so often. The only thing I can potentially think could be impacted here is there's obviously the WrestleMania payday. Where if you get on the WrestleMania card, you get significantly more kind of cash. Maybe they're just not going to be bumping that up or something this year. I don't know. It's all all a bit of conjecture, isn't it? We don't really know for sure. But based off the fact that that meeting took place around that, it would seem pretty in keeping with the tone.
And that's, I think, is right to sort of think towards WrestleMania, and maybe there is something to that, because obviously we're now on the road to WrestleMania, and everything's gearing towards those big matches and setting those big matches up. So it's going to be in everyone's mind, and you assume financially that would have come up as a question. So while it is speculative, I can see your point there. An interesting one indeed, Carl. So speaking of interesting, we have one Davey Boy Smith Jr., who we're particular fans of, Carl. The whole family, to be honest, absolute legends, right? But as a lot of people know, I want to say, correct me if I'm wrong, Carl, roughly, was it 2011 off the top of my head, he was with, or he was probably before that, actually. I think he was released in 2011 with WWE, but he has previously been with WWE as part of the New Heart Foundation, I believe. Apologies if I got the faction name wrong. We had a few of them. And obviously then, after his release, went off to the likes of MLW, which he's most recently been signed to, been over to Japan, certainly sort of expanded his sort of career and his experience in that sense. And rumour has it, from the man himself, that he's been in talks with WWE. Notably, one of the mentions was appearing on NXT UK. Now, when this was mentioned, he basically said, like, obviously the current COVID situation has put a stop to that. So that wouldn't be happening anytime soon. But you've got to consider, he lives in Tampa Bay, I believe. He lives quite near where NXT have set up shop. So could he appear on the US NXT, the usual NXT? And it seems heavily suggested that there is some sort of deal in the works. And it'd be interesting to see, and correct me if I'm wrong here, Carl, like, did he get a solo run at all in WWE on his
No,
first time
nothing
out?
major really.
Because I know he was teamed with the likes of
Tyson. It was Tyson Kidd.
I nearly forgot his name for a sec there. Tyson Kidd. But I don't recall him having a solo run. So for me, I'd be really intrigued seeing him, especially the sort of. I'm not saying he was particularly green back then. He obviously had a fair bit of experience, but he was only 21 at the time. Like, he's definitely a lot more experienced in the biz now, and obviously everything that's happened over the years. He did team with Teddy Hart, he did team with Brian Pillman, and he sort of, due to circumstances with Teddy taking some time out and Brian obviously going over to AEW, he's had this sort of singles career with MLW and other places as well, to be fair. But for me, I'd be really intrigued seeing him have some time. I think it'd be main roster worthy. I don't know. People always look at NXT now, don't they? They're another brand. They're not a developmental roster. I personally don't agree with that, but there you go. I'd love to see him on Raw or SmackDown myself, but NXT is a really good starting point. It'd be a good shot in the arm for them as well.
Yeah.
What do you make of this potential?
For me, I think the same as you. So I was surprised initially. I was definitely surprised by the NXT UK shout, because I know obviously he's Davey's son, but he's Canadian, so I get the kind of nostalgia factor, but he's a big enough star to the point where you would want to use him on one of your main shows. And I agree with you. I would have expected to see him get called straight up to the main roster, but on the other hand, something similar happened with Drew McIntyre, didn't it? When he came back after his absence, he went back to NXT, and then look where he is now. So I guess it's not necessarily a stumbling block or anything like that. If he does show up in NXT, they could potentially fast forward him to the main roster. But yeah, I would like to see him have a main roster run.
Thing is, for me, I think the reality of it is all due respect to everyone on the NXT brand, but they seem to pull in characters to help draw eyes to NXT, and then they draw in characters to be developed on NXT. And I think he's one of those candidates, where he's on NXT to help draw eyes to it, not for any other reason. He's not, and again, all due respect to him, he's not Austin Theory, you know what I mean, who's there to develop. He'd be there for eyes drawn, similar to the way Karrion Kross has come in. He's really well known on the indies. He's come into WWE, and they know what he is. They know the talent he is, but he's not on the main rosters because it's a good draw for NXT. So I can see the logic in what they're doing, but I don't know. Because it is a developmental talent in my mind. I'm straight away we want to see him on the big shows. We want to see him on Raw and SmackDown and the big show. But
I don't want to see him on the big show. You keep that one to yourself.
But no. Nevertheless, I as much as we do fanboy over AEW, and you could go, it'd be nice to see him in AEW. I would mark out if we saw him appear on WWE.
Yeah, it's one of them, isn't it? The legacy and stuff of Davey, and obviously he's going into the Hall of Fame and all that good stuff as well.
Yeah, it's just that's the thing. I mean, this is WWE's that's where his dad made his fame. It just feels a lot more.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. I think this is potentially not even the exception. To people going to AEW, but I think it would feel, it would feel right, wouldn't it? Him being in WWE. So I'd love to see it.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it'd feel like definitely the right move. Definitely.
So after that, potentially good bit of news. Unfortunately, we've got a bit of somber news for the next one. So, Braun Strowman. Obviously, we saw him. He's been absent for a while. He had the whole suspension angle going down. But we saw him make a return just prior to the Royal Rumble, and he did obviously show up in the Royal Rumble match. But he's actually revealed that he's been out of action since the Rumble because he's had a pretty serious infection in his bloodstream. So it's effectively caused him to drop over a stone, 15 pounds in 5 days. So it looks like a pretty nasty infection. Obviously, it's such unfortunate time, and I don't really know the real reason why he's been off TV for so long anyway. But for him to kind of come back for SmackDown straight into the Rumble, and now this.
Well, I struggle to recall it now, but I feel was he off for some sort of surgery or to recover from some sort of injury? But it was nothing scary. But that's why he was having some time. And he was looking well when he come back in the Rumble. To be fair,
yeah, definitely. Super unfortunate timing, but also a super kind of scary, thing to have a bloody infection with your blood. So, obviously.
Oh yeah. Yeah, it's not something definitely not.
So, hopefully he gets over that pretty quickly, and we get to see him again soon. And yeah, I mean it's one way to stay shredded, isn't it?
Wish him a speedy recovery.
but yeah, no, we could. Hopefully we'll see him soon, and yeah, he gets better.
Indeed. Well, to be honest, it's one of them. That isn't something I'll contribute all too much on there, mate. As I say, it's just hopefully speedy recovery for him. So, if we move on to the next one, Carl, which will be amongst the number of signings that WWE have made, 2 names have stuck out. Now, one of them doesn't mean a lot to me, and I don't know if it'll mean a lot to you, Carl. And he was a big star in Evolve, which obviously was bought out ultimately by WWE, and this was Harlem Bravado. I believe he was part of a notable tag team in Evolve. Now, sadly, I didn't watch a lot of Evolve when it was its own thing, so I couldn't tell you too much about him. But he's certainly a notable name for anyone who followed, and it sounds like a very good coup for WWE. But the other name, Carl, is one that is quite notable, even if you don't watch Impact, and that's Taya Valkyrie. And that is because, as I understand it, she was the longest standing Knockouts champion. She's had a stellar career with Impact. And again, correct me if I'm wrong, Carl, but I believe, isn't she with old Johnny Morrison?
I didn't actually know that, to be fair. That's it. You're breaking the news even for me.
Could be wrong. I could be wrong there, Carl, but I think she's with John Morrison. So you go, well, okay, that makes a bit of sense. But she's like, I dare say, and I don't want no disrespect to the others. I think she's probably the biggest signing WWE have made in the current run of performance center signings. You know, what do you make of these two, Carl?
Yeah, so I
These
think
two
in terms of the
signings?
first one, Bravado, yeah, I don't really know too much about the guy, to be fair, so, not too much to comment on, but obviously, Taya Valkyrie is quite a coup, I guess. I'd imagine she would be going and, remaining on NXT as opposed to going straight up to the main roster, just because of how kind of...
I think though, I do agree with you there. That's probably what's going to happen. But is it just me? And this might be an unfair statement because, comparatively, they've still got a better women's roster than most other promotions. But like, I feel like we could do with some fresh faces on the main cards on SmackDown and Raw. Is that just me, or does it just feel a
Well,
little bit
we
that
just
way?
had Charlotte back. Everybody wants to see Charlotte every 2 minutes. Um,
All Charlotte TV. But no, like, do you know what I mean? I feel like we're getting the same faces more often. And I know they've got a fair roster, so I don't want to be unfair to it, but I don't know. I just feel like I'm seeing a lot of the same stuff at the minute, and it'd be nice to see some new faces come along and challenge like the likes of Bailey and Sasha Banks and even Charlotte. Let's get her in some new
Yeah,
matches.
definitely. I
Why not?
think, do you
I don't
know,
know.
I think it's more of a fact that they don't know what to do with them anymore. Like, obviously, we had the whole Women's Revolution. We did a whole segment on it talking about, how night and day it's been, the kind of current product versus the older stuff. But really, I don't think they've kind of kept the traction with that. Since the whole Evolution pay-per-view and kind of the stuff with Becky Lynch and things like that, I feel like the women's stuff's just an afterthought at the minute,
Yeah.
especially without Charlotte being there for a while. So, yeah, I don't know. I feel like it's going to be better for her if she does go to NXT, because if she goes to the main roster, they're just, other than now maybe with Bianca Belair and with Sasha on SmackDown, I feel like they're just, it just sucks across both Raw and SmackDown, really.
I know, it's just crazy though, because like I'm looking at it now, off the top of my head, and you might do the same. You might call me back on this and go, well, Raw has these people, but like I'm looking at NXT going right. So we've got the likes of Ember Moon, Tony Storm. We've got Io Shirai being the champion. Rhea may have just moved. We're not too sure yet. We've got Shotzi Blackheart. We've got the likes of potentially Taya Valkyrie coming in. We've got both Gonzalez and Martinez. There's just a ton of women's talent there, and you go, well, why? Like, as much as I enjoy seeing them on NXT, why aren't they being sort of moved to the other rosters? Because I feel like NXT's women's roster is way more
I know,
stacked
it's
than the other
crazy. I
shows.
think, the fact that we've got
But
these
again,
women's tag titles and stuff and them not really knowing what to do, because we've got a lot of talent there, to be fair, but they're just floundering because they've got nothing for them. It's like the whole thing with Peyton Royce. He broke up the Iconics and they were going to make a singles run for her and just change their mind. They gave Liv a bit of a singles run, then changed their mind and put her back in a tag team. It's just they can't
changed
they
the
don't.
mind. Yeah. At least they put it back in the same tag team. Peyton's been tag team with like
This
six or
is
seven
very true.
different people now.
And obviously everything's going on with Lacey now. Like, she's just doing nothing, is she? And then obviously you've had Naomi come back after how long? And obviously we were made up to see that at the Rumble. And they put her in a tag team with Lana, and it's like, are you fucking shitting
Yeah,
me? So
I know.
it's probably
It's. You just see such a stacked women's roster and go, this you could really do something with this. That tag scene could be awesome. The title scene in every title scene could be awesome. Like there's plenty of talent there, but I think I feel like considering we've not long had the superstar shake-up, but they didn't include NXT, so that probably didn't help. We could do a
we
shaking it up.
could, we
Huh?
certainly could.
Anyway, I digress there. So, Taya Valkyrie, yeah, she's
Cool,
joining WWE.
and some other guy. Um, so the next one pertains to the Spanish God himself, Sammy Guevara. So spoilers if you have not seen Dynamite this past week, but Sammy has left the Inner Circle. But apparently, we found out that there may be a little bit of beef potentially between himself and Tony Khan. So the original plan was to go off the back of him leaving the Inner Circle. They'd planned to bring him over to Impact for a short run, as I'm kind of bringing him into one of the angles over there. So they'd kind of scheduled everything up, and then basically it just didn't happen, and he ended up getting pulled from the show. Now there's been a lot of stuff going back and forth on the reasons why or why not. But there was some stuff around. He was meant to fly to Nashville the day before, and then that didn't happen. And then his flight got rescheduled to be arriving in the for the TV just a few hours before it was set to air. So that could have been the reason. But yeah, I think basically what it's alluded to is initially everyone was on board with it, but then Sammy'd had some thought and being like, well, is this the right thing to do? With my character now that I've left the inner circle, do I want to just rock up on Impact and take part in some kind of something that feels a little bit thrown together just for like a couple of weeks? So I think, he's basically decided that's not right for him or what he wants to kind of do. But if you believe some of the reports on Impact this week, obviously I didn't watch it, but we got to see a new member of the faction Decay, which was a Black Taurus. So apparently a lot of people are speculating that would have been Sammy in that position, which wouldn't have made any sense because it's kind of a gothic stable. Right. So you can kind of see why he wouldn't want to kind of go ahead with it if that was the plan. But there's been a lot of kind of speculation that him and Tony are kind of had a bit of a disagreement there. But the relationship between AEW and Impact is apparently still golden, as it's been described. So, interesting. But what are your thoughts on that?
I mean, it's a bit of a strange one, isn't it? Like, that's not like you wonder whether Sammy's foolish enough to actually do that, because like we've not had official statements from Tony or Sammy or anything on the matter. I believe we do know he was meant to, or he was flying out there or whatever. But like, I don't know. When you've got you've had your controversies since you've joined the company. You've gone through that suspension and so on like that. But you think it'd be the time to keep your head down. So arguing over what's sort of best for his character. And again, by all means, if you truly believe in what you do, and I'm not saying don't fight for your character, but at the same time, it's like, I don't know. I would have thought he probably wouldn't want to come in the crosshairs of Tony Khan at this point in time. Do you know what I mean? So it seems like a bit of a strange move to make.
Yeah. I mean,
career-wise, doesn't it? Because don't get me wrong, but from all accounts, he's no Vince McMahon. He's not going to fire him just for getting his peripheral vision or something. But I don't know. I just don't know. It just doesn't feel like a very smart move, and it just when you go, hopefully there's more to it than what we're hearing. It's just like, well, I don't like that idea, so I'm not going to show up. Because even the way you go about it, arguably, it's like, well, you were meant to show up and you didn't, or however it's gone about.
Yeah, I mean, there's been contrasting reports. So there's a couple of reports saying that effectively that it was Jericho who came up with this angle for Sammy to go there. And basically Sammy sent a text message to the Impact officials saying he wasn't happy with the creative direction. And then they texted Tony and Chris was like, what the hell? He texted Don Callis and said, well, what's going on? And then they decided not to put him on the show, but Sammy had already flown to Nashville. And then Chris Jericho texted him and was like, yeah, don't bother, just go home. So it sounds like just a big, massive kind of fuck up, really, in terms of how it's all come about.
No, maybe conversations you could have had.
Yeah, exactly. So, I think you're right. There's not been any kind of official statement from either Tony Khan or Sammy as of this this show right now. So it'd be unfair for us to speculate any further than what has been reported on. So yeah, hopefully just a case of cross wires or they decided to nix the angle, and hopefully there's no heat on Sammy and him and Tony are fine off the back of it. So
yeah. But I mean, there's always this very slight possibility that it's all work.
That is possible.
So, speaking of works, Carl, this next one definitely isn't a work. Now, the next one I've got for you is Casey Catanzaro has apparently been receiving a bit of criticism from her fans over Twitter because do you know what she's done, Carl? You know what she's done? She's done just the worst thing you could possibly imagine a person would do. She didn't wear a mask when she was in a restaurant.
Yeah.
I mean, just Jesus. I mean, it's unbelievable. But no, joking aside, obviously, I get it. A lot of people, and the whole mask thing is very controversial. A lot of people are very skittish about what's going on at the minute. But and obviously the rules work different in different countries, guys. So correct me if I'm wrong. But I believe Casey even pointed this out. So obviously she's been photographed or whatever, or potentially a video. But either way, it highlights the fact that she weren't wearing a mask in this restaurant. And by all accounts, that is the case in Florida. They don't, if they're sat down having a meal, they don't need to wear a mask, which makes sense. That's kind of how this country had it before they went, actually, you're not going out your house at all. So part of me is because we're used to that sort of rule, and I'm looking at it like, well, yeah, I mean, she's got to be able to eat and drink, so I don't really see the issue. And you know, I suppose some people are going, well, she walked in the restaurant without a mask and stuff like that, and I don't know how true all that is, but you know, she's come out and she said, look, you know, she does take it seriously. That isn't her like sort of ignoring what's going on. You know, she has a hand sanitizer. She wears a mask when she needs to wear a mask. She's tested every other week for her job. You know what I mean? She can't be any more safe than she's being. But nevertheless, she sadly has been taking that much grief on Twitter from all this that she's now deactivated her Twitter account as a result. But yeah, obviously people they like to push and push until they get some sort of results. But it's one of them. I think, well, you know, she said her piece, and whether they agree with it or not, that was that. Do you know what I mean? But here we are. She's now no longer on Twitter for the foreseeable.
Yeah.
What do you make of it, Carl?
It's a bit of, I mean, it's a bit of a shame, isn't it? All this kind of stuff, like people bullying and bombarding somebody. You know, it's someone's took a picture, and obviously that goes up online or whatever, or video, whatever it was that came out, and then that can be taken out of context, or you know, people can look at that and draw their own conclusions or opinions. You know, she's come out and addressed it and said that, you know, she wore the mask all times she needed to, followed all the protocols. She's obviously can't wear a mask while she's eating. So, you know, if she's obviously telling the truth and that is all, you know, as it is, and she's following all the protocols, then, you know, you can't. Well, what more can she do? Do you know what I mean? Just because someone makes a story out of nothing, it's just a shame, isn't it? Unfortunately, that
for me as well. I'm looking at the situation like, you know, we've had people in this country literally protesting outside of hospitals because they're anti-mask. So in the grand scheme of like controversies and problems, I don't really class theirs as one. Do you know what I mean? It's like she went for a meal and maybe could have put a mask or took a mask off sooner or whatever. But like, there are people who are actively like massively against it. So like, why are they trying to go to war with someone who's like already said like she does everything she can to be safe? You know what I mean?
yeah, no.
Hey ho. I'm not going to delve too far down this rabbit hole.
Nope. And speaking of people delving, Anthony, too far down rabbit holes. Do you remember Lil Bow Wow?
Yeah, I remember when he was like this big.
Yeah, Lil Bow Wow. He was in Like Mike, wasn't he? Who was him, wasn't he?
Was he in Like Mike? I know he was in. Wasn't it him who was in Tokyo Drift?
Oh, I don't know.
That was Lil Bow Wow.
I don't know. I definitely.
He might have just been.
I remember him from Like Mike because quite like that film, to be fair. But he's also a rapper, and he's not Lil anymore, so he's just Bow Wow. You know, if you're gonna change your name you just change it altogether, wouldn't you? Because Bow Wow's pretty shit. But anyway, he has actually
Yeah, but it connects to his. Is it his uncle? I want to say uncle.
Okay.
Uncle Snoop.
Okay. Uncle Snoop.
Might be
Uncle Woof Woof. But yeah.
I'm going with uncle. I don't know how he's related to Sasha, but he's part of the family.
Snoop is everyone's uncle.
I think
he's everyone's cool uncle.
Anyway,
that's the way I like to think of it. But no, so Bow Wow has said that once he drops his latest album, after all that, he's planning on getting in the ring, training with Rikishi, the WWE Hall of Famer himself. So apparently he's gonna have a go at.
See, I've heard he's a bad man, you know.
He did it for Snoop Dogg. No. So, yeah, he's basically said that, you know, once he releases his next album, his plans are he's going to focus on acting and pro wrestling. So, basically, a lot of people have kind of been like, what? You want to be a pro wrestler? That's insane. I think even WWE have got it on it themselves. And there's been loads of stuff flying around on Twitter and different exchanges and so on and so forth. But yeah, he basically has said that he's going to go and train with Rikishi ahead of, you know, trying to get ready for the WWE, and he tagged WWE in it. So whether that means, you know, it's the kind of thing WWE would do, isn't it? You've got all these fucking, you know, guys working their asses off in the performance center, and then, you know, Bow Wow will go and do some training for about a month, and they'd be like, yeah, you're in WrestleMania now, getting the payday. So, you know, it's the kind of thing that would happen.
Yeah. You're gonna fight Bad Bunny because we've got
Imagine.
him too.
Oh no. Imagine that happens.
Like, life's great question. Dog versus bunny.
I love it.
Dog always wins. Yeah, it's definitely going to be some sort of celebrity match. I actually hope that they take him seriously on that, and he's going to do some training, and he wants to do a bit more in the ring than just do a gimmicky, superstar actor kind of thing, rocking up on the show. You know what I mean? I hope it's a bit more than that, but I don't know.
Well, I'm just reading
like
through some of the tweets now, and he has actually been interacting with Damian Priest. So,
nice.
Yeah,
I wonder if he'd interact with us.
Get him on the show. But yeah, interesting one. Something I did not expect to see in the news today. Bow Wow is going to go to WWE as a wrestler. 2021.
Yeah, it's just 2021, guys. That's what it is. With big dogs, bad bunnies, and Bow Wows.
That's a shirt. I like
it. So, Carl, speaking of more signings, and this one will be a giveaway because he rocked up on Vengeance Day, which we'll be talking about. But my next one, Carl, is one Eli Drake has officially signed and showed up on NXT. So he now goes under the name LA Knight. So I'm not sure. I get it's one of them typical WWE things. They probably want to own the name so that you can't go by Eli Drake, despite being, very well known as Eli Drake. But he made it very clear, and we will talk about it on Vengeance Day. Not only did he rock up, and for those who aren't familiar with the name Eli Drake, he was former Impact and I believe NWA as well. So he's quite well known on the smaller promotions. But he's made it very clear that he's going to be coming for the North American title. So, again, spoilers, and we will talk about it, but that will be Gargano most likely. Unless anything happens quickly before that. But currently, as it stands, he's looking at Gargano. So, interesting to say the least. What do you make of Mr. Drake? Did you ever see him? I know you had some time where you enjoyed Impact, so you might have seen him there.
I did see him for NWA. On the one or two episodes that I tried to dip into. But
right, okay.
No, I don't really know too much about the guy, but I thought the way he just kind of rocked up at Vengeance Day and fucking Stu Bennett or Wade Barrett, wherever he's called himself now, it's just like
oh yeah.
It was interesting. So good way to make your little debut.
Yeah, I must admit, I don't know, I quite enjoyed. It wasn't just I don't know. Everything gets a little bit routine when you've been watching wrestling long enough, but it wasn't just like a rock up and randomly attack X person. You know what I mean? He just turned up and made his intentions clear and had a bit of banter. And again, one thing that you never know about with talent coming in is mic skills. And obviously, he's a well-established wrestler anyway. But it's nice to see him have that sort of back and forth and prove that he can, or potentially can go on the mic as well, which is good. So another signing. Signings everywhere. But I'll be honest, Carl, it might be worth asking WWE if they'll sign you, because right now they're signing.
I mean, it's got to be worth a shot. I'll fight Bow Wow. Let's do it. Make it happen. So, apparently I would make it though, Anthony, because according to a lot of people, such as The Undertaker, the current product is soft. And the latest to weigh in on this is the one and only Goldberg. So he was interviewed on Corey Graves' podcast, I think it was, After the Bell, and basically he said he's been getting a lot of shit himself, comments from people saying, he's coming back, doing 1 or 2 matches a year, and these people don't forget what he had to go through in order to earn the spot that he's got now, and he says he's one of the luckiest guys in the world. But yeah, basically he believes comparatively the business is soft. But it's in 2021, so things have got to change and things have got to be different. So obviously, okay. To be fair.
Okay. So Goldberg rocks off and says the business is soft after nearly collapsing for having 3 minutes in the ring with McIntyre. Yeah, that proves he's really proved that point, hasn't he?
You can't really take much of what Goldberg says seriously, can you? Because before he goes on any kind of podcast, before he goes, anywhere, even if he goes to the local shops, he's got to headbutt, a door 20 times first until he bleeds. So, you can't really trust what's going on inside there. Yeah. But he basically he elaborated on it a little bit more, and he said, the times are quite different than they were back then. People are soft. People take offense to things way too quickly. They need to get a little thicker skin. boys and girls, that's all I can say. You know, when legends come in, and I was in the business in the beginning, I was greatly appreciative of the eyes they brought to the product, and one day these young kids are going to be just like me, and I hope that karma comes back to bite them in the ass. That's all I can say, because at 54, I don't know one of them that could be doing what I do.
I love it.
So, didn't pull any punches, to be fair.
But that at 54, you don't think at 54 that you could rock up and get winded pretty quickly? Like, no offense, Goldberg, you're in better shape than I'll ever be. But let's be honest, right? There's some really talented guys there, and you're just dismissing a fuck ton of them just because you're petty about the fact that some of them weren't too happy that you inserted yourself in the title scene and weren't willing to put over younger talent. And I can guarantee when he's talking about the legends back in his day, they weren't there to fuck him over, right? That wasn't how they rolled. They were there to help them. Like, he hasn't mentioned any of that. And correct me if I'm wrong, because I know Hogan was like that type of guy where he's like, no, it's all about me. But I don't know. I think he's totally off base. I think, sadly, and Undertaker's my favourite wrestler, and I think he was totally off base calling the product soft. Which, while I'm ranting, it leads me into the next one, Carl, because Cena very much disagrees with Taker's comments and obviously Goldberg's comments. Because Cena's basically said that, and I agree with Cena's view on it quite a lot, actually, because he said it's a different era. He said Undertaker himself has seen and been in various different eras, and he didn't explicitly say it, but he sort of made the point that, like, Undertaker didn't sort of have these complaints when we moved out of the Attitude Era into the Ruthless Aggression into reality, and he was still working. It's like, the product's soft now, he's not there. Do you know what I mean? And it's not like the ramblings of an interesting point, because like he was quite an important character Taker in certainly the Ruthless Aggression era, because he was still on there regularly. I think he was world champ a couple of times during that time as well. But he was help pushing it into new hands. And, you know, Cena's got a point. We get really caught up as fans in the Attitude Era. We're currently in that nostalgic bit where, like, that was the best time for wrestling, and that was probably when it was at its biggest. But that wasn't. There was plenty of eras before that. You know, it wasn't like Attitude all the way up until it went fucking soft.
Exactly.
It doesn't work like that. So Cena's point is, like, it's not soft, it's different. It's a different time for different people, and it doesn't discredit. And to be fair to Cena, I think he sort of suggested it's probably just a poor choice in words more than anything else from Taker. Like, he doesn't mean it quite the way it sounds potentially, but, like, yeah, it's such a shame, like, referring to it as like, they're soft, they're all soft today. Like, Goldberg's comments especially, like, saying, oh yeah, they take offense too easy. It's like, to be fair, like, back in your day, you were ending people's careers, Goldberg, without much of a care in the world. I wonder why people get offended.
Do you know what? I think it's even sadder, unfortunately, for Taker, in my opinion, because I don't even think he thinks the product today is soft. I think he's referring to talent, because the only stuff he mentioned was, like, you know, people playing video games backstage and stuff like that, and it's like, right, but the fact is we're in the PG era at the moment. Yeah. It's not a, you know, TV 14 mature thing anymore, so obviously it's
I love that it's like they're playing video games backstage, and that's him thinking the Sonic. They're not backstage like chugging whiskey and rolling dice like we used to do. Like, yeah, funny that, isn't it? Just yeah, I don't get it. Like,
strange.
Video games has made him a fucking fortune as well. He should respect them, damn it. Only because I played video games all the time, so I'm not sorry.
I love it. Personal angle on it.
Anyway,
and so Anthony, the last one we've got, unless any more have cropped up while we've been talking,
the last one
is.
Well, the only thing I do want to mention, like, Big Cass has actually come out and he said that he totally agrees with Taker, and that the product today, he's got only one word to describe it, and he's going to spell it out for us.
Love it.
Sorry, I had to throw that.
Anyway, so speaking of people who are soft, I'm joking. So this is a bit of a shame, really. If it is, you know, is true, it's not a work or anything like that. But so Arn Anderson said on his latest Coach's Corner that after the match that Cody had on Dynamite this week, teaming up with Lee Johnson, he says that he's suffered a slight tear of his left rotator cuff. So his current status is TBD. Now, Cody also put on Twitter just the injured emoji as well. So not ideal when they're trying to build up to a big thing that they've been trying to make happen for ages with fucking Shaq. So obviously it was going to be Shaq and Jade Cargill against Cody and Brandy, and then Brandy got pregnant, and then they've managed to shoehorn Red Velvet into the situation, and now Cody's potentially fucked. So what's going to happen now? Is it just going to be Shaq and Jade Cargill beating the shit out of Red Velvet?
Cody's going to come out and he's going to cut a promo with such confidence that he can beat Shaq with one arm tied behind his back. That's exactly what he's going to do. And then there you go. So
they'll make it that kind of stick. I mean, it's a Cody match, so you know it's going to be overbooked somehow, isn't it? So
yeah,
but you know, hopefully, you know, to get back onto, you know, being serious about it. If he has injured himself, obviously that is a massive blow. I don't know what the recovery time is for, you know, tearing a rotator cuff. But, you know, hopefully...
Do you know, I really hope, and you know that they're not going to play it up rather than anything else, so they are probably playing it down, but I really cling on to the whole thing of them going, it's a slight tear. A slight tear. You go, okay, that sounds manageable. Maybe we can deal with this. So, like you say, hopefully the recovery time...
Well, it's one of them. I hope...
Not too scary.
I hope it's not too serious, and I can definitely see Cody trying to fight through it for, you know, the Shaq match, but maybe he might be going away after that for a little bit if it is more serious. But, you know, whatever the severity of it, hopefully he's healed up and back on the men soon.
It's interesting you say that, you know, because, like, thinking about it, like, we could end up, and purely speculation, but we could end up, if he's going to have some time after the Shaq match, if we can get the Shaq match done, he's going to have some time off. It might be for a good while, because then presumably by the time he's finished recovering, Brandy will be near enough due as well, and they'll want some time off with the baby. So we could have an AEW without Cody for a good while, you know.
Oh, that'll be interesting.
Thinking about it. Be interesting. Will be very interesting. Sorry, just needed to throw that out there.
Well, that's it. That is it for the Ringside Report, Anthony, this week.
That's the Ringside Report? We did it. Indeed.
It was indeed.
What a fun one it was. So, shall we have some you know, commercial breaks, some music, some adverts, some things, and then come right on back with our unique segment for this week?
To me. See you after this.
You're watching or listening
to A to the K.
The A2theK.
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 These guys are awesome. Check it out.
Check it out. Change your life. You'll be thanking me later.